Good morning, all. As we all discussed earlier, we have completed unit number one. Now, in this session, we will try to summary what are the important points in unit number one. So, let us summarize unit number one. Before going into the radar systems block diagrams, initially we need to know what do you mean by radar system and where it is used. So, normally radar system is an electromagnetic device or electromagnetic system which works on the principle of sending electromagnetic signals into the air, and these electromagnetic signals are spread into the air, and these electromagnetic signals went towards into the air and hit back to from the target and reflected back towards the radar, and whatever the reflected signal is known as echo, and this echo signal is processed by the receiver, which is placed at the radar system, and depending on that echo we need to decide whether there is a target present or not. This is how the basic principle of the radar system. So now coming into the radar system block diagram. So already we know that for any communication there should be one transmitter and one receiver. So along with one transmitter and receiver, there would be some channels between them, transmitter and receiver. So normal for any communication system, there will be two antennas, one antenna for the transmitter and one antenna for the receiver. But 90% of the radar system uses a single antenna that can be used as both transmitter as well as a receiver. Uh, this can be seen whatever the block diagram in front of me that is supposed to be. We have seen only one antenna, so that one antenna will be termed as both transmitter as well as the receiver. And now we need to know how single antenna can be served as a transmitter as well as the receiver. So that is the main important parameter and one of the main important aspect of the radar block diagram. Now let us see, there is important parameter that is supposed to be duplexer, which is placed in between the transmitter section and as well as the receiving section. Whatever may be this system, this one is supposed to be a transmitter section and this one is supposed to be a receiving section. So that is for both the transmitter as well as the receiver, we have only one antenna. That antenna will both serve as both transmitter as well as the receiver. The main parameter and the main block in the block diagram is supposed to be a duplexer. The main purpose of the duplexer is to protect the receiver from the transmitter signal. Why? Because normally the transmitter sends the electromagnetic signals into the air with a large amount or a huge amount of power. But if the large amount of power is went to the receiver, what happens normally while you are designing any receiver, in order to receive very low signals, we need to design receiver with low power, so that is it can withstand very low powers. If the transmitter power went to the receiver with such a huge amount, so the receiver may be spoiled or receiver may be damaged. So that is the reason the duplexer is placed in between the transmitter as well as the receiver. The main purpose of the duplexer is to protect the receiver from the transmitter signal. So from while coming to the block diagram, already we have the pulse modulator. So pulse modulator is nothing but what, which generates electromagnetic signal, that electromagnetic signal which can be sent into the air in order to predict the target. And that pulse modulator may be a magnetron or it may be a reflex crystal. So depending upon the application, we can use any one of these oscillators. And after that, we'll go to the transmitter section. So transmitter section means which transmits the energy into the air. As we already discussed earlier, the duplexer is placed. Now, coming into the duplexer will be operated in two modes. One is supposed to be TR mode and second one is supposed to be ATR mode. So TR mode stands for transfer receiver mode and ATR stands for anti-transmitter mode. So as already said, the duplexer will access both transmitter as well as the receiver. So that is the duplexer. If it is operating in TR mode, so that will be operated as a transmitter. And if it is activated in the ATR mode, it will be used as a receiver. So TR mode, it will be as a transmitter, and ATR mode, it will be as a receiver. So this is how the duplexer separates the transmitter from the receiver. The main purpose of the duplexer is to protect the electromagnetic signals does not enter into the receiving section. If any part of the transmitter signal enters into the receiver section, so the receiver may be spoiled or it may be damaged. So that is the only reason the duplexer is placed in order to protect the receiver from the high power transmitter signal. And The antenna transmits the energy into the air, and already we know that some part of the energy will be reflected back, and whatever the reflected signal will be received by the low noise RF amplifier. So here the low noise RF amplifier is used because the receiver signal have very less intense, or it has a very less power. That is supposed to be, it may contain some noise. So low noise amplifier will have, it will allows almost echo signal, and which eliminates some part of the noise, and after that it will go to the mixer. The main purpose of the mixer here is, so mixer has two inputs. One input is supposed to be the output from the noise amplifier, and second input is supposed to be local oscillator. This local oscillator is supposed to be a carrier signal, and the output from the mixer may be a three components. So mixer performs three operations. That is, it can add the two input signals, or it can subtract two input signals, or it can send any one of these two input signals. Let us see. Let us the frequency of the low noise filter is supposed to be f0, and local oscillator frequency is supposed to be f1. Now the three possible outputs from the mixer are, the first one is supposed to be addition, that is supposed to be f0 plus f1, and second one is supposed to be f0 minus f1, and third one is supposed to be only f0. So whatever may be the addition signal, that is supposed to be f0 plus f, and subtracted f0 minus f1, both are the sidebands of that particular frequency. And after that, the signal will go to the IF amplifier. So it is also known as a matched filter. Here the matched filter means, already we have said, the output from the mixer or any one of these three. So that is supposed to be, it contains the two sidebands, positive sideband as well as a negative sideband, and the frequency in between the sidebands, that is supposed to be three frequencies. Among these three frequencies, IF amplifier selects any one of the frequency. It can select either positive sideband, or it can select a negative sideband, or it can select the frequency in between the higher and lower. And after that, we'll go to the second detector. Second detector is nothing but the demodulation will take place. Already we have said that the local oscillator will act as a carrier frequency, and that carrier frequency will be modulated here, and what will be the transmitted signal that will be demodulated here. And after that, we'll go to the video amplifier. So why it went to the video amplifier means, mode of the signals we need to display on CRT screen. So that is the reason it should be amplified, and after that we'll go to the display. So here the display will use a CRT screen, or any display which can show you output. So there may be three types of displays will be there: A scope, B scope, and PPI. So depending upon the application, we can use any one of these displays. Now coming to the radar block diagram, the major part is supposed to be the duplexer. So duplexer is nothing but it will act as a both transmitter as well as the receiver. And the main purpose of the duplexer is to protect the receiver from the high power transmitter signal. And it operates in two modes, TR mode and ATR mode. If it is operated in TR mode, it will be as a transmitter, and if it is operated in ATR mode, it will be as a receiver. Now, coming to the prediction of the radar range performance. Before going into the radar range, prediction of the radar range performance, so already we have derived the equation for the radar is supposed to be R is equals to PT into G into AE into sigma divided by 4 pi whole square into S minimum whole power 1 by 4. Already we know where PT is equals to transmitter power, it will be expressed in terms of word, and G is equals to antenna gain, AE antenna effective aperture, and sigma is radar cross section, which will be measured in meter squares, and S minimum, that is supposed to be minimum detectable signal, which is also in watts. Now, in order to predict the radar range, so that is the radar range depends on here the radar range is nothing but the distance between the target and the radar. So that is supposed to be at what distance the target is moving, whether it is coming or whether it is going away from the target. So in order to predict that, the radar range depends on all these parameters. First one is supposed to be transmitter power, antenna gain, effective antenna aperture, radar cross section, and S minimum. If you consider all these 5 parameters, transmitter power will be generated by the transmitter itself. That is supposed to be power source, power modulator or pulse modulator. So that is the transmitter power will be known to us before sending the signal into the air. So that is the transmitter power can be a predictable thing. And antenna gain is also a predictable thing. And antenna aperture, that is the size of the antenna or the mouth of the antenna, this is also a predictable thing. So the main problem with the radar range is the problem with radar's cross section and S-min, that is supposed to be minimum detectable signal. That is, if you want to measure the R maximum accurately, that is, we need to consider the problematic parameters are radar cross section and as well as the minimum detectable signal. What do you mean by radar cross section? Means the amount of signal which is reflected from the amount of area which is reflected from the radar. That is, I mean, the target is supposed to be radar cross section. So that is, we don't know at what area the electromagnetic signal is reflected from the target. That is supposed to be a statistical behavior. The statistical behavior means it will be varied along with the values which, if we considering different values, the value may be varied. And S minimum, this is also a statistical behavior. So in order to predict the radar performance correctly, we need to concentrate on radar cross section and S minimum. If you predict these two accurately, that is the radar, we can predict the radar elevation and we can predict the distance very accurately. So first we will go with the minimum detectable signal. Minimum detectable signal is nothing but, already we know that minimum is nothing but the value, the least value it can be detected, that is supposed to be minimum detectable signal. While you are deriving any minimum detectable signal, if you want to give you minimum, so there should be, we should derive some value that is supposed to be minimum. That value is supposed to be threshold level. Now, if you want to derive a minimum signal, or if you want to put a particular value as a minimum, so we need to put some particular value that is supposed to be a threshold level, that is supposed to be, it is indicated in a dashed line like this. This is supposed to be threshold level. That is the target which are measured at this threshold level are known as threshold targets. Now, the main thing is depends on at what level the threshold level should be. I mean, at what value the threshold level should be. Right? Now, if the threshold level value is more, there may be a chance of missing the target. And if the threshold level is very less, there may be a chance of receiving a false alarm, that is supposed to be false targets. Now let us see, we have taken one of the output from the target, that is supposed to be like this. We have taken the RMS value like this. Now let us see, we have taken 3 points, point A, point B and point C, and this is a threshold level. So threshold level means whatever may be the signals which crosses the threshold level. So without any doubt, we can say that there is a target, and any signal which is less than the threshold level, we can say that there is no target. Now, let us see the point at A. So it is well above the threshold level. So we can conclude that there is a target at A without any problem. And B is, it is almost equal to the threshold level. So there we can say that there may be a target and there may not be a target. And now let us come into the point C. So it is well below the threshold level. So we can say that there is no target at all. So A, we have a target without any doubt. And B, there may be a possibility of target. And at C, there is no target at all. The each and everything will depends on the threshold level which we have designed. While you are designing the threshold level, so the value should not be high and the value should not be low. Now, why? Because if the threshold level is well above the point A, so in our previous discussion, already we have said there is a target at A. If the threshold level is well above A, so there is a chance of missing the target, which is supposed to be a huge mistake while you are detecting the target. And at the same time, if the threshold level is below, so below means if it is below like this, if it is the line is like this. Now what happens? If it is what happens is, already in our previous discussion we have seen there is no target at C. If the threshold level is very low, so there may be a possibility of getting C as a target, but practically it is not at a target. But if the threshold level is very minimum, so there is a possibility of getting C as a target, that is supposed to be false alarm. That is, while you are designing any threshold level, there should be a compromise. It should not be high as well as it should not be low. If it is high means there may be a chance of missing the target. If it is low means there is possibility of getting a wrong targets, and that is supposed to be false alarm. Next one is supposed to be receiver noise. So already we have said that any system, any electron system or any system does not have, will not be designed without noise. So that is supposed to be any system will contain at least a 0.1% of the noise. So 0% noise system will not exist practically. Now, so while you are designing any system, while you are designing the receiver, so we should consider that what is the minimum affordable noise that can be designed while you are designing any receiver that is supposed to be receiver noise. Now, while coming to the receiver noise, there is a possibility of getting at least minimum noise that is supposed to be thermal noise. So thermal noise is nothing but, which can be already with is a well-known formula, that is K into T into Vn. So here K is nothing but the Bohr's constant and T is supposed to be the temperature and B is supposed to be the bandwidth. So bandwidth is nothing but the frequencies between higher frequency and the lower frequency. Now, if you want to calculate the thermal frequency, I mean thermal noise, we should consider K into T into Vn. And already we know that K is a well-known value, that Boltzmann's constant, and T is a temperature, and that is supposed to be 290 Kelvin. This can be considered as a room temperature, and Bn. So the problem with the Bn, so what do you mean by Bn is nothing but this is a ratio of frequency response characteristics of IF amplifier to the frequency of maximum response. So that is the value of the Bn. Bn is equal to integral minus infinity to infinity h of f whole square and divided by h of f whole square while you are differentiating with respect to the frequency. Now, this is the noise figure. So the noise figure stands for the ratio of noise out of the practical receiver to the noise out of the ideal receiver at the standard temperature T0. So noise figure is nothing but what is the noise with respect to the practical receiver and with respect to the ideal receiver. So normally for an ideal receiver there will be no noise, but practically there will be a noise. Now we need to define the noise figure with respect to the ideal receiver. That is what amount of noise is increased with respect to the ideal receiver while you are using a practical receiver. So that can be defined by the noise figure. Fn is equals to N0 divided by K into T0 into Vn into G suffix A, G suffix for available gain. And now this can be represented as the noise out of the practical receiver to the noise out of the ideal receiver at the standard temperature T0. So standard temperature T0 already we know that value is 290 Kelvin. And after that, this noise figure we have as measure of the degradation of the signal to noise ratio as the signal passes through the receiver. So that is SI is equals to K into T0 into Vn into Fn and S0 divided by S0. So here now we have taken only input is supposed to be S minimum. If the minimum detectable signal is S minimum, now SI, the corresponding to the minimum ratio, SI is equals to K into T0 into Vn into Fn into S0 divided by N0 and S minimum. So while you are considering minimum value here, so signal to noise ratio should be a minimum value here. And after that, if the minimum detectable signal already, this is what we have derived earlier, and just we are replacing, just we are substituting the same value S minimum into the radar range equation which we have derived earlier, and just replace that value. So the value will be R maximum is equals to PT into G into antenna gain into effective aperture into radar cross section divided by 4 pi whole square into K into T0 into Bn into and S minimum. And the next one is supposed to be signal to noise ratio. While you are calculating the signal to noise ratio, there we have considered a block diagram which consists of an NF amplifier and a secondary detector and an VD amplifier. The signal to noise ratio can be obtained by applying the results of the statistical noise theory. The obtained result can be used to find out the minimum detectable signal, which in turn is used in the radar equation. So now we are considering an IF amplifier which has the bandwidth of VIF, and in addition to that, we have followed with the second detector and VD amplifier. Now we are considering the bandwidth of the VD amplifier, and that should be wide enough in order to get the maximum output. That is, the bandwidth of the VA should be large to the half of the bandwidth. That is what the required conditions for the VD amplifier. That is, the bandwidth required for the VB must be greater than half of the bandwidth of the IF amplifier. So the main purpose of the IF amplifier is to amplify the intermediate frequency from the mixer. So it has the capability to vary the both band pass as well as the gain of the receiver. So after the conversion to the intermediate frequency, the signal is amplified in several IF amplifier stages. Most of the gain of the receiver is developed in the IF amplifier stages. And coming to the second detector, the second detector in the microwave receiver, which converts the IF pulses into the video pulses. Why we need to convert the IF into video pulses means because the followed block tag is supposed to be video amplifier. So in order to generate the video signal, so first we need to convert any IF signal into the video signal. That will be done by the second detector. And after that, video amplifier receives the pulses from the detector and amplifies these signals to the application in the indicating device. Now, the noise entering the IF is assumed to be a Gaussian noise. We have some formulas. You need to remember each and every formula here. So there we have derived the probability of the. Now here we have derived the probability that the envelope of the noise output. Why? Because we are only considering the envelope means. So envelope is nothing but what the maximum value of the amplitude is supposed to be the envelope. So already we have seen in your previous unit that is supposed to be unit number 2, which is discussed earlier. Whereas we can use either frequency modulator or amplitude modulation. That is, if you use the amplitude modulation, what happens? The amplitude of the signal varies. It is not at all a recommendation. So that is the reason the amplitude we need to consider in order to detect the output. So we should concentrate on the amplitude. So that is the reason where the probability of the envelope of the noise or voltage which is lies between the values of V1 and V2, that is a formula. And this is supposed to be the probability of the threshold voltage Vt, and this is the equation for the probability of the false alarm. So that is the PFA, and after that we have derived the value for the time taken for the to detect the false alarm, that is supposed to be limit n tends to infinity 1 by n, sigma k is equals to 1 to n, and t. And these are the formula. We have some formulas. We need to remember each and every formula here. So these are not required for you. And after that, the integration of the radar pulses. Already we know the integration is nothing but the summing of all the values within a given range. That is supposed to be integration. Let us say if we have taken integral 0 to infinity, means we need to add all the values from 0 to infinity. That is supposed to be integration. Now if we are adding the integral from 1 to 2, means we need to add each and every value from 1 to 2. That is supposed to be integration. Why the integration is used means, so normally while you are transmitting the electromagnetic signal into the energy, we have sensed the pulse modulation. I mean, we have sent the electromagnetic signal several times. So that is the several time means whatever the number of times we are sending the electromagnetic signal into the energy, the same number of echoes can be reflected from the target itself. That is, there will be, if you are sending more number of electromagnetic signals, there is a probability of getting more than, probability of getting more echo signals. That is, if you want to integrate all these echo signals, that is considering only echo signal, it might be difficult to say whether a target exists or not. So we are integrating all the echo signals, then we can say that there is a possibility of getting the output. The main purpose of the integration of the pulse is to improve the detection of the target. A large number of pulses are usually returned from any particular target on each radar scan. So all these returns can be used to improve the detection. A pulse integrator is improvement techniques to add a probability of detection by using the multiple transmit pulses. Now see, this is here. This is a signal to noise ratio. So here the value is very less, right? This is the pulse 1, this is pulse 2, this is pulse 3, and we have taken n number of pulses. If you see at the pulse 7, we have seen the signal to noise ratio is very less. While it is coming to pulse 2, the signal to noise ratio is more. And coming to the pulse 3, the signal to noise ratio is more. Why? Because the value is increasing means we have added pulse 1 to pulse 2. That is, the value has increased. The resultant value is added to pulse 3. The value is increased, and then is added to 3, and 3 is added to 4, and 4 is added to 4, and so on. The value will be added to n. So what happens at the particular output? At the last pulse, we have taken. We'll see the maximum value here. See this one. The signal to noise ratio is more. So whereas here, if we consider the pulse 1, the signal to noise ratio is very, very less. While integration at the final output, we have taken, we consider, we have seen that the amplitude is very, very less, which is the effect of the integration. Now, the number of pulses can be written from a point target as the radar antenna scans through its beam is known as NB is equals to phi into B into FP divided by sigma F, and that can be written as, whereas F is equals to pulse repetition frequency and phi S is equals to antenna scanning rate, and omega M is supposed to be antenna scan rate. If n number of pulses are integrated by an ideal post device, the integrated signal to noise ratio would be less than that single pulse. The purpose of integration already we have seen. Now, even though the post detection integration is not efficient, so detection is integration. The integration can be done at 2 times, that is post detection as well as the pre-determination and post detection. Even though the post detection integration is not sufficient, it is easy to implement, hence it is preferred the most. Before the pre-detection, so most of the signals, the integration will be done after the post-detection. The efficiency is given by the formula E IFN is equal to signal to noise ratio of the signal with respect to 1 into n into signal to noise ratio with respect to n. So 1 is supposed to be the signal to noise ratio of the pulse number 1, and n into s, and n is nothing but the number of pulses we have transmitted. And this is the improvement in the signal to noise ratio when n pulses are integrated after the post detection. This is the integration improvement factor. That value is given by 10 log 1 divided by E I of n. So this is the integration of the radar pulses at different areas, a perfect integrator, and we have taken different values of PDs here. This is pulse modulation P1, P2, P3, and P4, and we have taken all these values. There is a graph drawn between the improvement factor and the number of pulses. And after that, we have replaced the values here, and we have derived the values over the maximum range equation, and the value will be Vt into Z into Ae into sigma into n into, and the formula 4 pi into 1. So after that, radar cross section. So already we have said that radar cross section is very difficult parameter to analyze. Why? Because this is a statistical behavior. So the value already we have discussed the same topic in prediction of the radar range equation. Now let us see what are the parameters which affects the radar cross section area. Even though a radar transmits megawatts of power single pulse, only a small part of the signal will be bounced back to the receiver antenna. Already we have, so the most of the signal will be wasted into the air. Only some part of the energy will be reflected back towards the receiver. The power transmitted in the direction of the target, so which will be depends on several parameters. First one is supposed to be power transmitted in the direction of the target. Whatever may be the power which will be which will be transmitted towards the direction of the target, that will be considered. And second one, the amount of power that impacts the target. So because already we have said that most of the signal will not be detected by will not be abstracted by the target. So that is, most of the signal will be less and reflected back towards the direction. And third one, the amount of the reflected power. And third one is supposed to be the length of the time in which the radar is pointed towards the target. Why? Because the most number of, if the time increases, there is a possibility of getting more and more output accurately. And this is the radar cross section of the target. There we have seen this is the power density with respect to the air, and whatever may be the electromagnetic signal will be transmitted will be reflected back here. And this is the reflected power spreads equally as it returns to the radar. The area over which the power is spread is proportional to the square of the distance, and the amount of the power spread over a given area is given by the power density, which is inversely proportional to the distance, that is supposed to be 1 divided by r square. And after that, we have derived the radar cross section. The formula for the radar cross section is supposed to be power reflected, the ratio of the power reflected towards the source per unit solid angle to the incident power. So there we need to consider the reflected field strength, and as well as we need to consider the strength of the incident field. And now let us consider the cross section of this simple target. And now here we have taken a sphere like here, and see this is radar cross section area. So this is the transmitter power. So whatever be the transmitter, this is all they have the radiation pattern of that particular antenna, and it will be end towards the radar. And this is the blue lines indicates the transmitter signal, and the red lines indicate the reflected signal that is supposed to be above. So clearly we have seen that the strength of the echo signal is very less when compared to the strength of the transmitter signal. So that is only less part of the transmitter signal will be reflected back towards the signal that is supposed to be RCS, that is supposed to be radar cross section, that is supposed to be sigma. The less sigma, there will be probability of prediction of the radar will be changes. That is supposed to be radar cross section is the effective cross section area of the target as shown in the figure. So while you are deriving any function of the radar cross section, we need to consider 3 points. That is supposed to be the wavelength. The wavelength of the circumference of the sphere is supposed to be 2 pi a divided by lambda. So depending upon the value of 2 pi a divided by lambda, which is when compared to the one value, there will be 3 regions. Suppose first one is supposed to be Rayleigh region, and the second one is supposed to be optical region. Any region between Rayleigh region and optical region is supposed to be my region, or it can be a resonance region. If the wavelength 2 pi a divided by lambda is far less than 1, then it will be Rayleigh region. The same, inverse to this value, 2 pi a divided by lambda is far greater than 1, that is supposed to be an optical region. So any one value, any one of the value which is between 2 pi a divided by lambda far less than 1 and 2 pi a divided by lambda far greater than 1, that will come under my region. So already I have seen in between the Rayleigh and optical region, there will be my region. For large 2 pi a divided by lambda, the radar cross section approaches the optical cross section of 2 pi a pi square, and my region, the cross section is oscillatory with the frequency within the region. Now let us see the interruption of the cross section of the raindrops. Why? Because whatever may be the strong signal which is reflected from the target, if any raindrops will be there, the strength of the strong signal will be decreased. That's supposed to be weak signal. So that is while you are deriving the radar cross section, we need to consider the atmosphere conditions also. Why? Because the atmosphere conditions have huge effect on the reflected signal. Why? Because while it is already we know that the reflected signal has very weak strength, that is supposed to be the amplitude of the signal is very less. Thus, even though the signals are reflected from the atmosphere signal such as the raindrop, so there may be a drop in the signal strength. So that is supposed to be weak signal. The cross section of these objects varies as lambda divided by 4. The rains or clouds are essentially invisible to the radar, which operates at a relatively long wavelength. The cross section of other objects will depend upon the direction as viewed by the radar. Now, while you are transmitting electromagnetic signal into the air, so that is the target shape maybe. We have different types of shapes of the target. There may be a cone, or there may be a sphere, or it may be a square, or depending upon the size of depending upon the shape of the target, depending upon at what angle, and depending upon at what shape the electromagnetic signal is reflecting back, depends on the shape of the target. That is supposed to be, if you take in a simple cone value, let us see here, we have taken different values. This is the radar cross section with respect to the cone, and this is double-sided band, double backed cone, and this is cone sphere, and this is a double coned drone, and this is circular. So there we can see the radar cross section varies. The radar cross section increases with the shape of the target. If it is cone, the value will be large. If it is double-sided double backed cone, the value will be less, and cone shaped. And depending upon the values, depending upon the shape, the radar cross section varies. The tip of the cone must be sharp and not rounded. The surface must be smooth. The joint between the cone and the sphere must be no holes. And as a comparison between the nose of the cross section of the several cone shaped objects as shown in the figure. Now see, this is a radar cross section. with respect to the diameter of the wavelengths, we have different types of wavelengths. The radar cross-section varies along with this, and this is the graph drawn between the diameter of wavelengths with respect to the shape of the radar cross-section shape of the targets. And this is the transmitter power, the last topic in unit number 1. The power PT in the radar equation is peak power, and it is defined as the maximum power averaged over the carrier duty cycle, which is occurs at the maximum of the pulse radar. Already we have seen radar range equation is equals to PT into G into AE. That is supposed the first parameter is supposed to be transmission power, which is directly proportional to the range. That is, if the transmitter power is more, the range is more. If the transmitter power is less, the range is less. The average radar power is the average transmitted by the over the pulse repetition frequency. TP is equal to 1 divided by FP. This is also known as the pulse repetition frequency. Time period is nothing but the pulse width of the frequency. That is the inverse relation between the frequency and the time. And P average is related to the peak power, and the value is given by average equals to PT into tau divided by TP. So where P average, PT and tau divided by TP, and F2 into tau P are called the duty cycles of the radar. So duty cycle is nothing but T on divided by T on plus T off, and the pulse radar for the detection of the aircraft might have typical of the duty cycle around 0.001, while a continuous wave radar has transmitted continuously has a duty cycle of unity. And after we are substituting all these values in the radar equation, R maximum is equal to have the value. And several factors which affects the transmitted power, and those are supposed to be the bandwidth and the pulse width or grounded are grouped together, since the product of two is usually of order of unity in most of the pulse radar applications. That value is given by the transmitted power in terms of energy is equals to ET is equals to P average divided by FP, and just we have substituted that value in the radar range equation. And this equation is the range does not explicitly depends on the wavelength or pulse repetition frequency. And after that, the important parameters are gained. The important parameters are affecting the range or the total transmitted energy, and we are substituting all these values, and we are getting the maximum equation for the range. And this is about the unit number 1. Already have seen, starting with the block diagram, you have seen several parameters which affects the radar. First unit is supposed to be all the radar parameters. While you are designing, what are the precautions and what are the required conditions while you are designing any radar system will be discussed in unit number 1. The main thing is supposed to be the each and everything will depends on the radar range equation. What parameters which affects the radar range. We need to consider all these parameters, and we need to analyze all these parameters. So because the radiation, the radar equation changes along with the radar parameters. Why? Because since the value depends on all these parameters, we need to consider all the possible conditions in order to vary all these values. This is with unit number 1, and in the next session we will go with unit number 3. And meanwhile, you should concentrate on the block diagram of the radar and the prediction of the radar, and what are the minimum and what parameters the radar range depends on. Initially, we need to concentrate on 2 parameters, as there are very statistical behavior as minimum and as well as the radar cross section. So what are maybe with what patterns which affects the S minimum and what patterns which affects the radar cross section. We have seen several parameters which affects these conditions, and depending on these values, the radar range value will be changed. So it is very difficult to analyze all these values. Why? Because these are very statistical behavior in nature. So in order to analyze all these statistical behavior, we need to consider all the possible values, all the possibilities and all the probabilities while you are designing the values of radar cross section as well as for the S minimum signal. While you are detecting the S minimum signal, we need to consider all the possible signal to noise ratios and signal to noise ratio with respect to the ideal antenna and signal to noise ratio with respect to the practical antenna. And while you are considering the radar cross section, we need to consider the shape of the target and what time the target is placing and all, which depends on the weather conditions. If the weather conditions changes, the radar cross section value changes, and as well as the signal changes. So depending on, we need to consider, we need to analyze all these parameters in order to derive the radar range equation perfectly. This is the end of the session, and in the next lesson, we'll start with unit number 3. So there we'll discuss very important parameters. Thank you.